call is important to us.
Hello and welcome to tonight's show.
You've arrived at your destination. Connecting.
Hi guys, welcome to Glitching the Code here on iconic.com. I'm here with primetime Alex Stein. That's your alter ego, Alex. I think I spoke to you about 6 months ago on Conspiracy Castle, but to see how well you're doing, and it's much needed, the comedy that you're bringing, the satire, the just taking the piss out of the woke. We tried to do it on WTAF in our own British kind of dry sense of humor, kind of grumpy way, but you obviously do it in a more outwardly exuberant way, but it's both doing the same thing. How important is it, Alex, to take the piss out of these people, and why aren't more people doing it?
Well, to be honest, it's kind of like we're kind of have to do it because they mock us, Rich. You know, I talk about this all the time. It's like really what I'm trying to do is just mock them back. We live in a world now where now they talk about sudden adult death syndrome. That's their new thing. I mean, they actually act like that's some new disease that just got started in 2021. And people are like, oh, yeah, that's a real thing. People are just 32 healthy. They just died a marathon from sudden adult death syndrome. To me, that is pure mockery. Now, what I'm doing is a little different. I'm not trying to kill people. I'm trying to bring joy and laughter to people, but I'm saying I'm using the same techniques where it's like what I try to do is I try to blend the line of reality and fiction because they do that. They're literally lying to us and they tell us it's a fact. So I try to do the reverse engineer of that, Rich.
How did you come up with the ideas to do these things? I mean, you've done things like trans swimming sensation, trans kids on puberty blockers, the recruiting for the World War III army, the abortion one recently. I mean, do you just go through the papers and say, look at the woke madness of it and go, I could just do a spin off of that and turn up somewhere? I mean, it's not the sort of thing I'll be able to do. I'm not as outgoing as that. But how do you come up with the ideas of this?
Well, you nailed it. It's exactly right. All you have to do is turn on CNN and you listen to Brian Stelter or MSNBC or any of the legacy media here in America, and you can just listen to what they say. It's like the new thing right now is there's a video on Twitter that's going where Josh Hawley, a congressman, they're talking about Roe versus Wade, and the people that they're interviewing are supposed to be pregnancy experts, and they keep on saying pregnant persons, people that are able to birth. You know, they can't even say that a woman or a man, you know, they literally think men can have babies. So that's where we're at. It's like we've just lost all touch of reality. So for me, I'm just literally whatever they say, like I can make fun of that. I mean, I'm going to say I'm a birthing person. And I've said that before because it's all a joke. Rich, it's literally a joke. It's like what they're really saying on the TV and in the legacy media or whatever you hear. That is a joke. So I'm just putting a mirror to it. And what I'm doing now, and I didn't necessarily call it this, other people started calling it, but I've adopted it. It's called culture jamming. We take the most absurd parts of our culture and you jam it in people's face. So you're kind of like, whoa, is this really what's happening? And I think a good example of that is I do it in a comedic form, but libs of TikTok, all libs of TikTok does is find the craziest, weirdest parts of our culture and just post it, just repost it. And everybody wants to shut her down, the woman that runs it, because what it does is it exposes them because you actually see the culture. You actually see the madness that you're defending. So I think if you just put a mirror up to the narrative, people are like, whoa, I don't know if I should follow this. This is a little too weird.
Have you always been like that? Have you always been the young boy that was pointing and saying the emperor had no clothes on? Have you always been that way?
Yeah, I mean, a little bit. I mean, I think, you know, I was always kind of the class clown. I was always getting in trouble. I'm very anti-authority. And that's the thing, Rich, is you say left wing, right wing. Well, both wings are on the same bird. There's people that are in our government. It doesn't matter. They act like they're conservative, yet they'll give $1 billion to Ukraine every day till the day I die. So the problem is I don't like the establishment. I'm anti-establishment. I mean, obviously, I lean towards more of the conservative side, but I have a lot of problems with conservatism. I think that we probably should have some sort of universal health care. I don't like here in America that when people are afraid to call an ambulance because they break their arm. So I don't think, you know, all of my viewpoints are necessarily 100% conservative. And at the same time, you know, now it's like all these people are crazy, you know, in the Christian right. They really are now in America. It's kind of, they call them Christian fascists where they're anti-gay. I don't care if you're gay, go be gay. I just don't want children to be indoctrinated with your homosexuality. That's it. I don't care about a pride parade. I just don't think it should be a pride parade for children. So my point being is I don't care, you know, about having some sort of identity political viewpoint. I want to have my own viewpoint, and my viewpoint is to be anti-establishment. So my whole life, I think I've always been anti-authority. And now that I'm getting older, I'm realizing, you know, the authority that bosses us around as adults is a government that doesn't care about us.
Have you always known about this? I mean, you call it Conspiracy Castle. was it conspiracies that got you into this conspiracy research, or was this something that came along later on, but you could see the political absurdity of all this madness?
Well, I mean, really, I didn't want to be that political. I mean, I graduated college in 2010, and I remember I moved to California, and that's when I first noticed from going from, I grew up in Texas, went to college in Louisiana at Baton Rouge. It's a big school. It's a 50,000 person school. And then I went to LA, and I kind of noticed the wokeness, and this is in 2010. So obviously it was very liberal, but it hadn't gotten as bad as it is now. Like there was homelessness, there's Skid Row, there's a lot of the aspects, that are still in LA today, but it wasn't as bad. But then I started to notice really in 2015, when Hillary was running, that's really when I woke up. Like, obviously I woke up to 9/11 a little bit before that, probably 2014. And that's when I really started to realize, like, oh, maybe the government would lie. There's a thing called Operation Northwoods where the CIA had a plan to fly planes into buildings during the Cuban Missile Crisis and blame it on Cubans in order to start a war with Fidel Castro. And I'm like, wait, so the CIA is not good. And then you learn about JFK. But for me, it was really the transition from where Hillary, every single media company said Hillary's going to win. The day of the election, New York Times said Hillary's going to win, 98% chance. And in my mind, I was like, oh, I like Trump, but Trump's not going to win. He's not going to win. I didn't expect him to win. And then Trump won. And that was like the moment for me. I was like, oh, well, the news is fake. Literally, the news is fake. I always suffered from cognitive dissonance right up until he got elected, basically. I was kind of like, well, the news can't all be fake. Yeah, there's some fake people. They're trying to sell some pharmaceuticals. They're trying to do this, but you have that cognitive dissonance. You think, well, they can't all be in on the plot. There's got to be some good guys. And when I realized that it was a coordinated effort to say that Hillary Clinton was going to win, when she didn't, she got crushed. And as a matter of fact, she wasn't even as popular as they said. That for me was the final domino that was like, okay, all right, it made all the other dominoes fall down, where I had that cognitive dissonance. I was like, maybe the government's okay. Now I was like, no, this is it. This is, there's no trust whatsoever. And from then, that's when I really got political, was 2015, 2016.
So you call it mockingbird media. Can you explain to the audience what that actually means?
Well, we know that in the 60s and 70s, what happened was the CIA was put, and they were testifying in front of Congress, and they actually admitted, they had to admit that the Mockingbird media was Operation Mockingbird was a plan where they had people from the CIA in every single level of our radio, television, media, and film. And as a matter of fact, you even look at, some of the biggest directors now, they have Hollywood liaison offices now. If you're trying to shoot a big movie and you actually want to use like a real tank or a Hollywood tank, you have to speak to these liaison office. Sorry, that's a hard word to say. You have to speak to these offices and get permission. And oftentimes these military people will want to change the narrative of the story. I think it was Last Action Hero with Arnold Schwarzenegger, I believe. And I can't think of the director off the top of my head. And I know his name. I just can't. Michael Bay, I think is what his name was. And he wanted the terrorists to be like Chinese. And then they said, no, we need the terrorists to be Muslim. They need to be, Muslim terrorists. And the reason they do that is because I know this, there's a lot of truth in movies and lies in the news. That's what they use. They use movies to propagandize us and to use predictive programming so that when it comes true, we're kind of like, the Muslims were always the bad guys. And then we go start a never-ending war in the Middle East over weapons of mass destruction that didn't even exist. So it's kind of scary how coordinated this effort is to use propaganda to trick people into starting these never-ending wars. And I think right now, although I'm awake to all this, seeing everybody cheerlead for this war in Ukraine when nobody could even pick out Ukraine on a map. I went and covered the gay pride parade in New York City. They had all these Ukrainian flags. That gay marriage isn't even legal in the Ukraine. If you're transgender in the Ukraine, you try to go to Poland, they say, no, here's a gun, go fight. So they don't even accept transgenderism. They don't even accept gay marriage. Yet all, the homosexual community is defending the war in Ukraine immensely. So it just shows you how stupid, I'm not just trying to say everybody's stupid, but how easy it is to convince somebody to cheerlead for something they have no idea what they're cheering for.
Do you think what they get out of it is they're so desperate to be seen to be a virtuous person? They'll call it virtue sickness. They'll get rid of everything, absolutely every logic, just so you see me as a good person. Even though I know that I'm a dickhead, and I know that you're a dickhead, we don't say it, and we certainly don't put it on social media. It's the absurdity of where we are. It's this. What is going on?
It doesn't make sense because these people, they want to act, they're so virtuous and they want a virtue signal. Yet they're the first person to cheerlead if somebody doesn't get vaccinated and dies of a vaccine. You know, I mean, these are the first people that say, oh, well, you know, you should die or you shouldn't be able to go somewhere. So it's all fake virtue. And that's the problem. It's like we live in a society where people are being fake nice, even the ones that are trying to be nice. I'm saying it's all fake. They really don't want to help one another. And that's the problem. That's probably our biggest problem in society is that you see people, and this is what makes me mad. I don't know. I didn't use a fake vax card. I never did that. And I know there's a lot of people that do that. And I think that's almost like the worst thing is you're kind of capitulating. You're like playing their reindeer games. And so for somebody to tell me, oh, well, I'm anti-establishment, I'm anti-mask, I'm anti-vaccine. But even for you to use that card is, you know, basically you're playing their game. So I'm saying there's the fake virtue and there's also people that are against it that kind of, you know, whatever they want to pretend to be able to subvert the rules and still live their life. So it's just hard. It's like both. What my point being is there's people on both sides that aren't genuinely themselves that still don't want to affect their lives. They still want to be able to go on their vacation. They still want to be able to look good on Facebook, and they're not being authentically themselves. And that's what we have a problem in this country. We have an identity crisis. And that's why I think that one of the biggest problems is.
How do you think that's going to play out in the years to come? If these kids are growing up, these teens are growing up, pretending to be something they're not. I mean, we're always doing that anyway. That's part of being a teenager, but not to this absurd degree where you're basically building an online avatar of yourself and people love that. How is that split going to be when they get older? Because they're hitting their 40s and they're saying yes when they mean no. We're going to have some serious Michael Douglas fall down moments kicking off everywhere.
Well, there's two things. I mean, there's kind of a twofold answer. I think right now we have the huge identity crisis with young kids that are actually transitioning their gender because their teachers encourage it. And so they're making lifelong decisions where they're getting on hormone blockers during a stage of their adolescence and their puberty that they can't ever get back. And I know there's people that started hormone blockers at 12 and then they stopped at 17 and they still had like a genitals of a 12-year-old. So like there's that point where people are making lifelong decisions because of like a phase in their life. And that's kind of the not being true to themselves. And there's also, I think, the conspiratorial side. Richard, I believe, and I'm a tinfoil hat conspiracy theorist, they want to make life so bad. So when they finally have the technology, like you see in the Matrix or like in the Vanilla Sky, they want to plug you into some sort of metaverse. And they're going to say, oh, well, climate change is so bad. You can come live in this pod. And normally you'll live for 70 years on average here on Earth. But in the pod, you'll live for thousands of years. You can live for however long you want. You'll be intubated and you'll be able to have all the money. You'll have all your dead relatives. You'll have the hottest girlfriend or the hottest husband, whatever you want. And I think that is kind of the future where you just said this social media lifestyle where you put out your best, greatest hits. You're going to actually be able to be your social media profile. But the sad thing is people don't realize as soon as you sign up and you sign your name on the dotted line and they put the intubation tube and they hook the thing to your brain, you die, you're dead. You know, you never wake up and people might not realize that. And so I think that's like the harsh reality. If I had to predict the future, I think we're going to have a weird future where people are literally plugging into machines and living a fake life inside of some sort of digital matrix.
I think possibly I had this conversation with my partner today. Possibly we've done that here, and that's how we got here. That's just another level deeper.
It's a simulation. I know. People say that. I know. And they say it's a simulation. It's like, oh, are we already plugged into it? Were we born into it? Maybe. I don't know. I mean, it's actually funny though that you say that because I was kind of thinking about this just when I was showering because I'm speaking at this event tonight. It's this Young Republicans thing, and the local media is already like killing them. They're like, are you really letting Alex Stein speak? They call me. They say I'm far right and all this stuff. But I guess back to my point, though, before I get onto that tangent, I'm talking about and people don't realize this. They think like, oh, I want to blame everything on everything else. Oh, I'm a victim. That's big in America. Everybody wants to be a victim. Like victimhood is a thing. But really and truly, you are the author of your own autobiography. And once you start writing it, and that's what I did. I lived a lot of my life kind of just like going with the flow and kind of letting like this opportunity comes and kind of just whatever happens, just kind of like, getting lucky, I guess. But once you actually take control of your own life and you start making your own opportunities, you can do that. Every single person, it doesn't matter like, oh, I'm in debt. Oh, I have this. Well, you can go out there and you can actually change your life. You can start right now. And people don't realize that they can actually do whatever the hell they want. They think, oh, I have to do this because people are going to, view me this sort of way. I got to fit in. But that's not the case. When I stopped trying to be universally liked, I started to get way more liked. It's so crazy. You know what I mean? I used to kind of always want to capitulate and not be so out there and not talk about a lot of my crazy conspiracy ideas. And then once I just said, forget about it. Who cares what they think? I'm not going to be universally liked anyway. I started getting more liked. So my point being is we need to realize, take control of our own lives instead of letting other people dictate it, instead of like living your whole life as a debt slave in a little office and just going on a vacation 2 weeks out of the year and be like, oh, well, it's all worth it for those 2 weeks. Start living every day of your life like you're on vacation. And it's easier said than done. It's not easy because, like I said, you might have kids, you might have bills, you might have this, but you got to try. You got to try to actually live your life like you're on vacation, because if you don't, you're literally just going to die a very meaningless life, in my opinion.
Well, you said there, you said universally liked, and that term sounds like you're trying to kind of vanilla it across the middle and be liked by everyone. But what you've done is you've had the guts to be universally as equally hated as liked.
Yes.
Do you know what I mean? So you've got a lot of people that like you,
yes,
and a lot of people that hate you, but had the guts to go, okay, this is something. I'm not in the middle. And that's kind of what you've done. And then that is an incredibly brave thing to do.
Well, and it's funny because it's you say that, keep saying it's funny, but my hero, my comedic hero is a guy named Andy Kaufman, and there's a great movie by Jim Carrey called Man on the Moon, where it was like a live action movie of his life. But if you just look on YouTube, you look anywhere, you look at Andy Kaufman, his career, he kind of was like, he was really liked. And then he became a villain. He started like wrestling these women. And what Andy Kaufman did that I liked and that I try to do myself is he would do stuff, and I do these at meetings where I'm 100% real, and I want them to think I'm real, because that's part of the joke. Because if they believe it and then they don't think anything I did is funny, that's funny to me. Then I'm laughing behind the scenes. Like Andy Kaufman would have somebody come on stage and hit him, and he'd want the audience to think it's real, and then they wouldn't laugh at all. They'd be like, "What the hell just happened?" And then he would get off stage and start cracking up, and that's how I am. I leave some of these meetings, I'm dying laughing because I can tell, like, the way they talk to me after, they were so concerned. They're like, "Are you okay? Is your wife okay?" Or whatever stupid thing I said. And that's my favorite thing, is because not everybody has to get in on the joke. And then if you can film that, and then you actually can make people laugh by doing that weird thing. And I think Andy Kaufman was brilliant at doing these kind of awkward in-person situations. Like you just said, I'm not going to be universally liked, I'm actually going to be hated. And I've been protested. And now that I'm getting more popular, more people hate me, more people say mean stuff to me. But what they don't realize is I love it. That's what I kind of like. I like to invoke. I'm saying this with a smile on my face. It's weird to be like, oh, I like being hated. But everybody wants to be liked. That's just kind of natural. You don't want it. But I also kind of want to be hated. I mean that. I'm not just saying that, hyperbolically or metaphorically.
The people that hate you are the ones that you're pointing out and pulling down, the woke virtue sickness and virtue signalers. They're the ones that you're getting at. So to be liked by by these types of people isn't going to mean anything to you anyway.
Hey, you're 100% right. It's like, so there's this local magazine called D Magazine, and they're the ones that are really going after this event that's hosting me. And somebody was saying a good point, and I agreed with them 100%. It's like they've written multiple articles about me. They've written like where I live. They basically dox me. And they're like, Alex, could you imagine if they were writing good things about me? And I'm like, I would hate that, because I'm not on their side. If they're writing good things about me, that means I'm an evil piece of crap.
Yeah.
So you're right. I'm getting the right people mad with what I'm doing. And so that's like that. I know I'm having an effect. And there's also in the Howard Stern movie, now Howard Stern's politics sucks, but he used to be really cool when he was edgy and stuff. And I grew up listening to him. But in his movie, there's a scene when he was like getting super popular, and they did like a survey, and they go, well, people that like Howard Stern listen to him for an hour and 10 minutes. Like, what about people that hate Howard Stern? They listen to it for 3 hours and 10 minutes, and there's something about that. The person that hates you is going to actually look and listen and watch what you do even more so than the people that like you.
It's really strange. I think Twitter was built on that business model of that feeds off that, which is incredible. I mean, I think they survived 6-7 years ago by becoming the political platform, because before that, I think they were really struggling. You're one of your videos for over 4 million views. What does that feel like when you get that many views on something and go from, I mean, I think even in the 6 months since I spoke to you, you've absolutely gone viral. You're on Tucker Carlson, Sky News Australia. It's quite amazing to see how you've, and well deserved. And it's really, really great to see, because it opens up the door for the rest of the people like myself and Gareth who do WTAF to show that there is a massive market and people want to laugh at that. And I think what you do is make people feel less alone in a world that's completely insane. You make them feel like, okay, this is an insane world and I'm not one of them. But to see that go from that to that in 6 months? What has it been like for you?
No, it feels really good. And honestly, it's like, you have to work whatever every single day of your life to become an overnight success. So it's not like, I was doing this podcast with nobody watching it now. A lot of people watch it now. I have a lot of opportunities. But to be honest, it's like, it's a great feeling, but I guess it's kind of like this sad, harsh reality that it's like, I got to keep going. It's almost just motivating. It's not like, I got a big video and now I can just rest. It's almost kind of pressure in a weird way. Cause now I'm like, okay, well, I want to top it. And it kind of becomes, sadly, I don't drink alcohol. I don't smoke weed. I used to, but I quit drinking alcohol about 3 years ago. And then I stopped smoking marijuana about a year ago. And for me, and I hate to admit this, it's kind of my drug now, creating content, going and doing these viral stunts or whatever, that's how I get the adrenaline rush. So, and then now I'm going to Washington, D.C. tomorrow. I fly out there tomorrow morning and I'm going to call out some politicians in person, and just the nervous excitement that I have, it's better than any drug because it's like a clean high. I'm like, oh, I'm going to be at Capitol Hill, and I have some politicians that are going to help me try to find like Ilhan Omar. I'm going to try to call her out for marrying her brother, and just, Elizabeth Warren, I'm going to call her out for being a fake Pocahontas Indian. So what I'm saying is that's my drug. So it feels good. Oh, I love when I would be lying. Oh, of course I want attention. I'm an attention whore. I'm trying to, get attention. Duh. I'm not going to sit here and lie. People are like, oh, you're just trying to get attention. Well, no shit, Sherlock. Excuse my French. Of course I want to get attention. I'm trying to create a podcast. I'm trying to send a message. So I don't want to just do it into a vacuum. But at the same time, when you get those big hits, it's kind of like, well, I got to keep going. Now I know it's working, and I got to do it again. So in a way, you think it like it's just, some great feeling. No, it's a little pressure. Now it's like, all right, that one's done. Now I got to do something else. So it's not one and done. I want to keep on doing it. You know what I mean?
Well, you're just at the start of it, and you're a one-man band from what I know. I think
yes.
with Andrew Kaufman, Andy Kaufman even, the character of him, and I still thought he was alive after he supposedly died. I'm a bit of a follower of him as well. I never thought he died. I thought the character, and I feel like you've got very similarities there. What happens when the Alex Stein 99 character blends with the real person? Where do you lose yourself in the middle there somewhere? Because you can't be 100 miles an hour all the time. You might need a nap during the day. Like, when does the character blame into the man?
I nap. Well, honestly, I think it's sadly, I hate to admit this, Rich. I hate to admit this. I think the character's almost taken over in a weird way, because now I'm always a serial dater, and I have girls throwing themselves at me, and I've been with I've taken some opportunities since I've gone kind of viral, and I'll be honest, I've slept with some girls, I've done this and that, but I can't date because I'm so caught up in my, I'm almost such a narcissist in that I'm just busy doing stuff. Usually before I was like creating content, and even at the beginning of creating content, when I wasn't like, it wasn't my, total focus, I was able to date. I was able to spend time and maybe go on a trip or, care about going to dinner or doing like the stuff that you do in a relationship. But now I'm so self-involved. The character's almost taken over, Rich. Like I almost do kind of think like maybe like there's too much pressure. I'm not going to stop now. But dude, I want to have kids. I want to have a wife. I want to have the white picket fence in the American dream. There's no doubt about it. And I'm getting older every minute. I'm 35. I'm young, but I'm not that young. I'm actually quite, I'm going to be 40 before I know it like that. And I don't want to be 40 years old alone. I don't want to have kids when I'm 60, and then not even be in my kid's life. So I, like you said, the character's kind of almost like, well, at some point I have to be like a real person, and have a family, because that's something I want too. So I guess I would say the character is kind of taking over at the moment, but that's my focus, and that's what I care about most.
But 35, I mean, I'm 41, and I've got a little boy, he's 2 years old, but 35 is still pretty young. So you got a 2-year-old.
So wait, you waited till 39? Okay,
late. My partner's 38, she's 38, so we were later. Yeah. So you're still quite young, really. But as you say, the character, what you're kind of doing is stopping this wokeness moving forward into what your kids would grow up around. Does it worry you that this becomes normal? I hate the term new normal, but they keep pushing it out. This wokeness, this insane psychopathy, and these people are insane. They are ill, genuinely ill. And what we're seeing, and what you're taking the mick out of, is they've just taken the stage and gone, it's okay to be mentally ill. And not only that, we're going to celebrate it and let you go full pelt. It's like Aleister Crowley's favorite day. Just do what thou wilt, have a go. Does it worry you that that's going to become normal for kids, and they're not going to know any different when they grow up?
Well, I think it's already happened. It's like kind of, obviously we look at, David Icke, he taught me problem, reaction, solution. For them, like, these New World Order, these globalists, like their solution is like we're all one sex, one gender, and one, world, and one race, and one government. Like everything's one, everything's blended together. And that's why there's no boys have a penis, girls have a vagina. To them, it's like they want birthing persons. A guy can have a baby, a girl can have a baby. They want to just make everything confusing and convoluted and live in the upside down world. So sadly, I almost think that we're at this tipping point where we're almost already there. You know what I mean? As much as I can yell and scream, it doesn't matter. The problem is that they have all of the schools, every single college that you go to here in America is an indoctrination camp. And I'm sure that's the same, all over. Where you go to these schools are all woke schools. And then you look at the people that are teaching the school, the children in the younger schools, whether it's elementary school, middle school, high school, they're all putting in this like weird wokeness and this new normal. So unless we just homeschool our kids, we are literally, when the kid is born, we send them off to the free public school, or even, some private schools are less woke. But the majority of people here in America send their kids to public school. These public schools are indoctrination camps at every level. It only gets worse as they get older. So for me, unless we change that system, unless we make it like what they're trying to do in Florida, the Don't Say Gay bill, which doesn't mean you can't say gay. It just means you can't talk about your sexual relations to kids that are under 11 years old, which is how it should be. My point being is when you can indoctrinate these youth at such a young age, the new normal's already started because they're the future of the world. So for me, it's like, I think it's already too late. They kind of started probably when you and I were in school and we kind of it wasn't as strong, but now it's so blatant. I don't have a lot of hope for humanity and not being woke. I think it's almost impossible to fight it. There's just going to be half the people are going to be awake and the other half aren't. You know what I mean? I think that's just where we're going to be split down the middle, in my opinion.
We're already seeing it. The teachers, like that libtards of TikTok or whatever it's called, you see a lot of these teachers, they've got a class, they've got their own uniform, they've got bleached hair, probably blue or green, sometimes yellow, depending on how they feel that day or that afternoon. And they're really in your face and they're completely just absurd, but they're teachers. Like that person would not be allowed in the classroom. And what happened to the dads? Like, I'm not being funny, but if I go to the class and I see my son in a classroom with that happening, he's coming out of the classroom and that person's getting an earful because what happened to the grown-ups? There's no grown-ups in the room anymore.
No, Richard, you nailed it. So one of the videos and stuff that I covered in the beginning of June, a Gay Pride Month, I went to a Drag Your Kids to Pride event where it was a drag queen show for kids. The kids were tipping them like strippers and, they were insinuating sex. They were gyrating and then the kids were coming on stage and walking with them. And one thing I noticed about that, it's like, as much as I want to get mad at the bar, as much as I want to get mad at the drag queens, and as bad as I feel for the kids, because there's kids that were supposedly trying to play their video games and the parents were grabbing and said, no, look at the drag queen. It's the parents' fault. It's the parents' problem. Having a trans kid is like having a vegan cat. It's the parents and the owners making that decision. A kid doesn't necessarily know that they want to transition their sex. So we have a parent problem that are using their kids for social media clout or using it for attention and in a form of Munchausen by proxy, where they can actually make their kids sick, whether it's mentally sick or physically sick by giving them some sort of hormone blocker that changes their whole identity. We have a parental problem. So you nailed it. It's like, I don't know what happened where maybe it's so many divorces. Maybe it's like a mom getting, back at their dad if they get a divorce. I don't know why it is, but I think you actually kind of came to that's kind of the root of the problem is we have a parental problem here in America, 100%.
We have it here too. I was a self-development thing a few years back. There's a little girl there doing the speaking. She was a self-development guru and she was 7. And her mum was going around with a bag and she's pulling out books from her daughter's self-development plan and selling them in front of the kids. The kid was a commodity and she's taking out a card reader in front of the kid and
swiping the card
in front of the kid. And I'm like, I've never seen something so mad, sick and disgusting like happen in front of me like that. That was just exploitation on another level. But only that, this was 7 years ago. That was accepted then. And I was the only person going, this is fucking insane. What the fuck is going on here? That was okay. And everybody was clapping and going, hey, look at her. She's inspirational. She's 7. It was happening then, but it wasn't woke. It was just just insane and psychotic. That's now acceptable, but now they've turned the colors up. Now they've just dyed the colors in, and now it's absolutely disgusting. Was it actually called Drag Your Kids to
Pride? Yeah, that's what
Pride.
it's called. It's called Drag Your Kids to Pride. That was the actual event that it was called.
So
And
they can get
everybody
away
there-
with calling it that now. Like even that to me
Yes.
would be like, if you're in the marketing department going, can't really call it that. That's a bit much, but that's okay. Is it?
Duh. Drag your kids to pride. I know it's literally like, you know, the insinuation that you have to actually, you know, grab them by their legs and, you know, pull them there unwanted. I mean, I see it's I think there's a lot of people here in America. We have a huge immigration problem, and I'm not even anti-immigration. I think people should immigrate here, but the problem is at our border, there's a lot of sex trafficking. There's a lot of drug trafficking. I lost one of my best friends, a guy named Clark Gable. He was the grandson from the famous actor Gone with the Wind, Clark Gable. Okay. And he was like, when I say he was like a heavy user, he's one of the, you know, biggest tolerances of people I ever saw. And then I get a call. He had like prescriptions of pills. He's from California, was living here in Dallas. We were working on a TV show here in Dallas together. He was the host of the show, and I was one of the producers of the show. And after the show was done, he went, I guess he ran out of the pills that he had and went and bought some Vicodin or oxycodone or something, and had fentanyl, and he died. He woke up dead. And here in America, I'm not saying that to be funny. I'm saying he just went to sleep, and he's usually a party animal. That's why I preference all that stuff. First of all, he had a big tolerance. Second of all, he's usually like at the club or doing all this crazy stuff, having 20 beers, smoking 100 cigarettes. The fact that he died with his 19-month-old baby and his fiance in his bed, it's insane. So my point being is we've had 108,000 drug overdose deaths because at our border, it's just open. You can just walk across it. They're not even searching you. They're so overwhelmed with all the immigration. So it's so easy, even if they catch drugs, because fentanyl is being produced in such high amounts by China, it's just flooding our country. And that's the problem. It's like people don't even care about our border. They don't care about stopping, you know, all the drug trafficking, sex trafficking. And you'll see parents, because there's so much trafficking, you'll see they don't even have a job. Almost here in Dallas, you know, Texas, we're right by the border. You'll go to like all the main intersections. They'll be like, you know, and then they're not even Mexican. They're like from South Africa, or I mean, not South Africa, excuse me, South America. There'll be a mom with her two kids sitting there with a sign, you know, the poorly written sign, sitting there for hours with their kids, basically using them as, you know, guilt collateral to get, you know, to beg. And you're just like, gosh, this is so bad. You just see it everywhere. And I want to help these people. And a lot of them do get help from social services, because America is really, you know, people say, we're a capitalist market. We're also kind of a welfare state. If you need help, we'll give you help. And I'm pro that too. I think, you know, socially we should help people that are in need. My point being is like, we have a system where parents are literally trafficking their kids. We act like parents care about their kids. They're literally selling them to coyotes to be sex trafficked across our border and to take drugs. So the parents don't care about their kids. They're literally using their kids to gain the most minuscule amount of wealth, or you know, just to scrape by. They'll sell their kids out. And it's really disgusting what's happening with our border and with the crisis that we're facing here in Texas and all over.
Well, a friend of mine, Charlie Robinson, calls it the controlled demolition of the United States.
Charlie's right.
Is that what you see happening?
Dude, it is America last. And see, that's the problem is, and I should have noticed this, because I remember in California, when I lived in California, I remember that's when, as I was like 2010, that's when they started using the term nationalist as a bad thing. It's like, oh, he's a white nationalist. And what does that mean? You're a white guy that loves America? I mean, what's wrong with loving America? I mean, seriously, yeah. I'd be like, what does that mean? Okay, well, I thought we were supposed to have American pride. I thought we were supposed to have America. They want us to hate America. Literally, they try to, you know, say, oh, America sucks. You should hate your own country. Yet we have hundreds of thousands of people every single month that want to come here and immigrate to America. And it's not that bad, but they're literally, like Charlie says, it is a controlled demolition in order to weaken our country, in order to make us hate our own country. Because if you do, there's people that say, if you have an American flag in your front yard, that's a hate symbol. Richard, that's real. Like literally, if you walk by somebody's house and they have a big flagpole with American flag, there'll be not the majority, but there will be a minority of people like, oh, that's a hate symbol. Why would he like this country? So that's where we're at. They're literally trying to do a controlled demolition of our own country in the sake of globalism, because that's what they want to have. They want to have some sort of new world order, one world order. And it's very simple. We're being run by these multinational corporations, and these corporations do business all over the world, whether it's in, you know, China, whether it's in Mexico, Canada, you know, you took a look at Pfizer, you look at Halliburton, they do so much business in the Middle East. And the fact is, because the more they can destabilize America, that gives them more control in these other countries, because then they can use, our resources like the CIA or like our military in order to go be the fake world police and take over control and put their industries in, put their banks in, put whatever they want in, so that they can build up their businesses. But it doesn't build up America. They have to actually make America weaker in order to gain this global dominance. And you see it with all of our politicians when they vote to send all these billions of dollars to the Ukraine, yet they don't help out our terrible homeless issue here in America. They're not doing anything to do with the drug issue. A lot of that money can be used to help people here in America, but they don't want to do that. They want to, help out these military industrial complex companies and give them money to go fight wars that we have nothing to do with.
It's insane, isn't it? And did you mention something there about having the flag up and then hating the flag and kind of repurposing the term white nationalism, although it's actually fine to say drag your kids to Pride, that's fine, but white nationalist isn't apparently in this stupid fucking world we live in. But self-hatred seems to be something that they keep pushing in. So you can't love your country, that's a bad thing. Can't love your gender, your normal gender, that's bad. You're the problem with climate change, that's human clause, you did that. You can't, if you don't have a jab, then you're hurting someone else. Don't worry about your health, worry about someone else's health. It's all about making you out to be the problem. You're the problem. And that's what seems to be getting through these subtle knocks, is that humanity is the problem here. I think it even said it in one of the Rockefellers, Agenda 21, one of the earlier ones, was the biggest threat to humanity is humanity itself. That's on their agenda. That's their psychosis. That is their psychology even. Humanity is the biggest problem to humanity itself. And that means every single one of us other than them.
No, and you're 100% right. And their plan is working because they have everybody here in America on an SSRI, on an antidepressant that makes them hate themselves more. And they said, oh, well, we have all these great psychotropic drugs, mental health crisis is going to get much better. It's gotten much worse. So now people can play this victimhood and they feel like they hate themselves more. And that's why they got to get vaccinated, because they hate themselves so much. Well, let's just do it for the greater good. It's all for the greater good. Well, we're going to greater good ourselves to death, and that's the thing, is we got to take back that individualism or that autonomy, and that have some sort of self-reliance or self-independence or even self-esteem. We have a country with no self-esteem. Everybody wants to be the victim. And if you're not the victim, you're the enemy. And I think you nailed it. It's like, humanity is the biggest threat to itself, is humanity. And people they buy that hook, line, and sinker. And that's what makes me really sick, Richard.
That's because they've been put. So the next thing is they've been put that basically you'll own nothing and you'll be happy. The lack of responsibility of doing anything. You said earlier about you putting yourself out there and the willingness and the braveness to be equally hated as liked. You still had to choose something. People have got to the point where they've been indoctrinated to think, just stay out of the way. We'll handle this. We're the adults. You stay over there, but we'll give you a tiny morsel of that and be happy with it. People have got to the point, they're so exhausted and so confused, as you said earlier, which is happening even more and more, that they'll just fizzle out. It's like a big brain fart. They've just had enough. And that's where we're going with it. They're just gone, I don't know.
No, it is. And they're worried about their bills. They're worried about whatever. They're just going to, just let the teacher raise my kid. Oh, I'm worried about work. They're getting, they're worried about getting fired. So they just want to shut up and keep their head down. And that's the problem. I mean, people are they don't want to have a life. They want to let other people figure it out. But the people that are figuring out for them, it's like, these are the people that are going to say, oh, well, sudden adult death syndrome, it's just a new thing. Oh, it's this great thing. It's the same people that said sudden infant death syndrome. Yeah, you look at the schedule of, vaccines for young children. And, when the rise of that happened, it's direct correlation, but they say correlation doesn't mean causation. And these people that can figure everything out, here, they just did a study, 1 in 30 kids is born autistic. So now, drastically, all of these children being born are having, defects where they're born, literally, excuse my French, retarded. And people are like, oh, well, somebody else figured it out for me. Somebody else knows better than me. The people do not want to do the research themselves. They just want to take an experimental shot with no long-term testing and listen to somebody else's, listen to Dr. Fauci. Dr. Fauci knows. Yet if you do any research to Dr. Fauci, you look what he did with AIDS, you look what he did in the 80s. There's a lot of stuff that was not very good. But these people, they don't want to do look 1 centimeter under the surface, not because they're bad people, not even because they're stupid, but because they're stressed about so many other innocuous things, so many externalities that they're worried about. They don't even want to think, oh, well, maybe I shouldn't do this. Maybe I should make a decision on my own. But instead, they listen to Stephen Colbert, they listen to Jimmy Kimmel, or they listen to Saturday Night Live, or they listen to Brian Stelter, and they just let somebody else that they think is smarter than them decide for them. And that's probably the biggest problem, is people do not want to just make decisions and do the research themselves.
Also, they want to be told what to think and what is the right thing to say. As you go back to virtue sickness and virtue signaling, you've got people like Jill Biden coming out and waffling on about women's rights and women's body autonomy. And a year ago, her and her husband are pushing mandated vaccines on women. How can someone have that, what is called the fetishist split there, the cognitive dissonance, to go, these two opposing ideas do not mash together, but I'm going to hold them. And these people are doing this now. These woke left are doing this. They're telling you that you need to get a mandatory experimental jab in you, but also you have body autonomy and that's the right thing for women. Now, how can you hold those two things, that is opposing ideas, in your mind and still think that you are a reasonable human being?
Well, when I go and ask them, I've done some videos where I said, I go to these Roe versus Wade protests and I ask people, are you in favor of my body, my choice? And of course they go, yeah, of course. I love my body, my choice. Well, are you in favor of the vaccine being mandated to work or travel? They're like, well, that's for the greater good. That should be mandated. And then you ask them,
can't have it both ways.
Of course. But then you ask them, isn't that a little hypocritical? And then they'll say, well, I'm allowed to be hypocritical. So people, that's what they'll say. And so they know they're being a hypocrite, and they just say, oh, well, I'm allowed to be a hypocrite. It's not a crime to be a hypocrite. And all these people in power are hypocrites. I mean, this is a huge issue right now here in America, this Roe versus Wade getting overturned. Yet now it's a state's right. So there's going to be states where you can always get an abortion. Yeah, you might have to get on a Greyhound bus. Even if you're poor, you might have to buy a $75 bus ticket to go to, a state over and get it done. But it's still possible. But, this is the problem, is even the people that are pro-choice, even the people that say, oh, I'm pro-abortion, when they get surveyed, overwhelmingly, they all think that there should be a limit. Maybe after the second trimester, after 14 weeks, after 20 weeks, you should not be able to do it. You should have decided by then. But the people that are in power, like Kamala Harris, the people that are in Congress, they're trying to get abortion up to 7 days after birth. So they're not even trying to do what the people want. Yeah, that's a fact. Look in California.
7 days after birth.
After birth,
that's not abortion, is it? That's called murder.
Yes, of course it is. Yes, that's what they're saying. That they're trying to get a bill passed to do that here in California.
Can you abort your 80-year-old granddad?
They would if they could. If it was legal, they would. No, you can't. Obviously, Richard, you can't do that. But that's how sick these people are. They want to be able to abort up until birth, and that's disgusting. Now, like you'll ask them, oh, the baby has a heartbeat. Oh, well, it's not a baby. It's just a clump of cells. Well, with that logic, you and I are just clumps of cells. And then you have Elizabeth Warren, who's one of the most popular politicians here on the left. She was complaining because here we have these pregnancy centers where you'll go there and it's not an abortion clinic. But what they do is they give you a free 3D ultrasound and they'll show you that the heart is beating and they'll show you what's inside their baby. And they'll give you, methods of how to get financing or how to let the baby be adopted or how to help you conceive the baby. And Elizabeth Warren called these places evil and that they should be shut down. Yet if you're somebody that, because she wants to be able to have an abortion all the way up to, the last trimester, but if you're just a normal person, how are they the bad guys? How are the ones that are trying to save the babies? Even the people that are pro-choice have to realize that those places are inherently good. They're inherently trying to help a child that is being born inside of somebody. Even if they don't want it, they're going to give you, sources where they can get it adopted, where you can literally get all of your medical bills paid for. You, if you go to the hospital, it won't even cost you anything to have the baby. And they think they're evil. It's because we're in the upside down world. We're in the clown world. And for me, going after all this wokeness, you and Gareth trying to call it out on your show, it's going to wake some people up. But the system is so screwed up. We need it almost needs to, they say build back better. It does need to collapse. Like everything almost needs to collapse. And we need to come back and build it back in a normal way, not this way where the clinics that are trying to help babies be born are the evil ones. And then all the abortion clinics are, they're so good. They're women's health. Yeah, they don't even talk about the baby's health.
Exactly. It's inverted. It's upside down. It's inside out. Do you get, because we get this from time to time, Gareth and myself, people come up to me and say, thank you for making me feel like I'm not so alone and not so mad, saying what I want people to say. And not enough people do these types of shows. And I think there's room for so many more of these types of shows. Ours are different styles. But do you get people like that come up to you and say, thank you for saying what I thought I want to say? I would like to have been able to say for myself even.
I get too many people saying that. I'm like, oh gosh, and I'm not like trying to say that in some sort of like, I'm super popular, but everybody's telling me thank you. I'm like, no, really, don't even thank me. I don't even need to be thanked. I'm not even doing, that great of a job. I'm just really just trying to, like you said earlier, it's very easy to expose this narrative and this culture by just putting a mirror to it. But my favorite thing to hear is I love when people say, oh, well, Alex, I saw your goofball thing. And I spoke at my school board meeting. I spoke at my city council meeting. I spoke at my, whatever town hall, or whatever it is, their Parks and Rec meeting. That's my favorite thing. And that's what I know. That's what I'm starting to notice is more. And I'm getting that message more and more, Rich. And that makes me feel so good. Somebody's like, well, I would have never spoke to my city council, but I spoke because I saw you do it. So I appreciate when everybody's like, oh, thank you. And that makes me feel good, but I'm not necessarily doing it to be thanked. But when somebody tells me, oh, I went and I spoke up, because this is why public speaking is people's biggest fears. I think they rank fears. It's like, public speaking or, is right up there with snakes and spiders and flying. It's literally like 3 out of those 4, I believe. So it's not easy for somebody to go up there and speak. And not everybody has to go up there and, be a goofball and wear a women's bathing suit and call out Leah Thomas, who swam on the men's team for 3 years and then gets to go join the women's team and win multiple NCAA championships. You don't have to be a goofball. But for me, it makes me feel so good. Because the only way we fix this problem, like I was saying earlier about, bringing down the system, we have to start at a local level. Like as much as I want to get mad at Jill Biden and Joe Biden and, Hunter Biden smoking crack and all that stuff. If you can actually go in your town and you get legislation where you don't want to have to wear a mask or you shouldn't be mandated to get a job, that's where you have, the biggest effect. Because here in America, like I was just saying earlier, states' rights, you can actually find a city where the rules actually fit your viewpoints. If you want to be masked up and quadruple vaccinated, well, go to California. You're going to fit right in. But if you don't want that, come to Texas. So my point being is the places we make the biggest impact is at the local level, speaking up to these politicians and actually holding them accountable once they get in power. But nobody does that. We don't hold these politicians accountable enough.
Could you get even more local? Like around here, I don't know if you heard about this. I'm sure you did. That in the UK, we had Thursday nights clap for the NHS thing going on.
Oh yeah, with the pots and pans.
Fucking insane. And literally everybody in my cul-de-sac did it other than me and my partner, obviously. And she's the only one.
Wait, Rich, hold on. Everybody was out there beating on it, but who could hear it? I mean, the hospital couldn't hear it. It was just a virtue signal.
They were smacking pans at the sky. It was hilarious. It was funny, sad, and just baffling. And
this is the thing. I'd almost realize it because some of those videos I saw where they get in line outside of the hospital, almost that I would kind of understand. I mean, it's still terrible, whatever, but like that I can understand. But just going out in your backyard and beating a pan for no one to hear it is literally mental. I mean, it's literally insane. It's a saying: if a tree falls in the woods, is to make a noise. I mean, literally, it doesn't even make a noise if you're going out there and nobody hears it. It's just
they were hearing it with each other, weren't they? So they were all rubbernecking to see who didn't come out. The strange thing is that my partner, Sam, at the time, she'd left the NHS now because of all of this stuff, was the only one who actually worked at the NHS.
And she didn't do it. Wow.
She didn't do it. And she actually left and left after 11 years because she refused the vaccine or the experimental gene therapy, not the vaccine.
Makes me sick.
But we didn't go out and do it. So is there a way of not doing, non-complying and not doing things, but also speaking to someone on a one-to-one level and just going a bit mad, innit? Take the mask off, a bit mad. Why are you putting that? Look, because some people can't get up on the stage and do that. Can they do something at a one-to-one level that can make a little bit of a difference, even if it's just a difference for themselves to go, at least I said something?
Well, of course, it's called being civilly disobedient. We cannot just be totally disobedient. Like I said, there's a part in the pandemic. I didn't fly for 2 years because I didn't want to wear a mask on an airplane. But I love to travel now. Now that they've dropped the mask mandate, I'm flying somewhere every weekend. And now I look back, I'm like, why didn't I just, even though I don't want to play the reindeer games, saying, I could have worn it. Like now I'll put on a video where to put 10 masks on an airplane. I should have done that 2 years ago, joking, making fun of the mask, or put a mask with it. I should have
gone all the way over the top with it.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I should have been trolling the mask when they make me wear the mask on it. My point being is that would have been civilly disobedient. That's the only way we win this culture war. We win this, this wokeness war, whatever you want to call it, is that we can't be so disobedient that we go to jail, or that we listen, she lost her job. That's terrible. That's so disobedient because you can't even work there anymore. And that makes me sick. People shouldn't have to lose their job for any sort of mandate. But at the same time, it's like you can't just capitulate and do whatever they tell you to do, because that's not living your life. That's exactly what they want you to do. It's not about, the spread of a disease or the spread of a virus. It's about you, complying. And so the fact that you have the balls, excuse my French, or whatever you want to say, to not play their games. That's beautiful. But at the same time, we have to be civilly disobedient, so much so where we don't necessarily get in trouble, but we don't follow the rules like they want us to follow, and we do not comply. And that's like you're saying, the one-on-one, people have to realize that if you're watching this, like, you have to figure out a way where you do not comply to these rules and laws that make no sense.
Yeah, they make absolutely no sense. So after all of this, and you're doing so much now, so Fox News is huge. You've got millions of viewers on all your videos. It's great to see, as I keep saying, and it really genuinely is, because what you're doing is important, and not enough people are doing this through satire and comedy. When this kind of, after a few years of this, what would you do on the back end of this? Obviously, when you kind of played the character, and it is you, from what I can tell, and I can't say that I know you well, but we spoke a couple of times, obviously. But with the volume turned right up, would you kind of help other people? What could be in the future for you?
Well, of course, I want to help people, but see, this is the other problem. Is like, we're kind of patting me on the back. I'm getting these views, or I'm getting, people are starting to notice me now. I'm, all these people are asking me to be on their shows, and I'm getting all this attention. But the reason why is because there's a huge void. And a lot of people should be doing this. A lot of people should be creating content that is not politically correct. We should be more politically incorrect. So what I see is going to happen, if I had to pick in 5 years, I think there's going to be a lot more people doing what I'm doing what you're doing. That doesn't necessarily mean going and making a fool out of themselves at meetings, but I'm talking about going against the political correctness. We're only going to create an army of more people that are like, oh, I'm not following the rules. So that's what I kind of see. That's what I see, it like a whole new cultural awakening of people being like, well, this is not okay, and I'm going to speak up against it. And I also see in 5 years, if I had to make my prediction, you look at all this legacy media, whether it's CNN and whether it's like Fox or the big channels, I think those are going to be dying quickly. I just don't think they're sustainable. I know these advertisers are going to be able to, whatever, keep them afloat for a little bit, but people are going to realize it's the micro influencers like myself, like you, that people actually care about, that people actually trust. So I think a lot of that TV and media is going to die, and that's going to create a whole new genre. Already it's creating. Now everybody has a podcast, right? Literally anybody with a microphone has a podcast, but that's only going to get more, Richard. That's only going to get, and then at that point, that's kind of like when we win the culture war in a way. It's like there's going to be so many counter narrative people that have a voice and that have a following, that when you combine them to the places like CNN, to the legacy MSNBCs, we're going to be more powerful than them, because we're going to be able to come together. Like if you look at my views on my Twitter, you look at Brian Stelter, he has 1 million followers. I'm sure his are fake. But if you look at the videos he posts and the videos that I post, I get more views than the top guy. And I'm not saying I get some great views. There's people that crush me with views that play video games. I'm not saying my views are that good, but I'm talking about just kind of the political world, that like these people are not undefeatable, is my point being. That's just one guy. But if there's 10 Alex Steins in 5 years, there's 10 Iconics, there's 10 these whatever counterculture media companies. Like I work for the Blaze, currently. If there's 10 of those in the future, those 10 are going to beat CNN or those big ones. So that's what I picture in the future, is we're going to have a lot of what we call micro influencers, but they'll be more powerful than the legacy media at that point.
I think you're absolutely right. And I think they'll be playing catch up when they realize the game is up. Alex, where can people find your work and connect with you?
Yeah, I'm on Instagram, Primetime Stein. I'm on Twitter at Alex Stein 99. I'm on YouTube at Alex Stein, and I'm all over the internet. If you can't find me, you're not looking that hard. And honestly, the people are like, oh, I want to support you financially or this and that. If you guys just watch my stuff, share my stuff. That's the best way that you can support me, because I want to get this message across. And I also say this all the time. All my stuff is public domain. If you want to reshare my stuff, any of my videos, I don't care. You want to remix it, edit it, whatever you want. I want people to know that are watching this. People out there, I tell them all the time, mine's free. I don't want anything. Do I need your permission to share it? No, please share it everywhere. And that's why Twitter's such a great platform. For the people that are watching this on YouTube, if you want to go to my YouTube channel and rip every video down and post it on your channel, go for it. I don't care, because we have to get the message out there. It's not about money. That's the other big problem. I want to make this last point is we have a society where inanimate objects, material things, bring people happiness. And that is poisonous, especially here in America. Oh, I got to have this car. If I don't have this car, people are going to think I'm stupid. Cars are junk. Everything that you own that you think is going to make you feel better turns to crap in 6 months. It becomes the old version of it. So you're going to be constantly playing this game where you never have the newest stuff, and having all of this, crap, for lack of a better word, this materialistic mindset where I have to have a Gucci thing. I have to have this. Go to a thrift store. I love a thrift store. Go to whatever, go buy something secondhand. If you really want to buy something nice, do not spend all of your time working and get all of your money to buy crap in order to impress people that don't care about you. So that's a huge problem in this day and age, is the materialism. So we need to get back to not worrying about the opinions of others and not buying stuff to impress people that don't care about you. So that's my last message I want to say. I think materialism, that's what they want us to do. And you see it in that movie, They Live, when you take off the glasses and all the advertising, consume. Quit consuming the crap they want you to consume, and consume stuff and build a family. Do stuff that makes you happy. Find a hobby that you like that doesn't cost $1 billion, that doesn't cost you all that much money. Go exercise, go get some sun, go get some vitamin D. Don't just get vaccinated. Don't just wear your mask and then sit on your couch all day, watching internet porn and downloading whatever stupid movie they want you to watch and buying whatever crap on Amazon that you don't need. Try to, save your money and do not put it into crap that is not going to make you happy at the end of the day.
Well, I can't top that. That's fantastic, guys. And obviously, I hope you've enjoyed this. Please go and check the links out below for Alex. And genuinely said again, but seeing you do so well. And I'd love to get you back on in the next few months. And I'm sure we'll work together in the future.
Oh, we will. We'll be working together for sure, Richard. Yes, we will. And I'm going to come over there. I'm going to be there because I got to go visit. I got to go hang out with you and Gareth and Jamie. I got to hang out.
Let's record some content as well, because we're setting up some more satire comedy content, so we'd love to get you involved. Well,
I need to go to some meetings there. I need to go. What city are you in? They're
in Derby, but I'm in Norwich, so I'm a couple of hours away from them, but I go and visit them regularly to catch up and make sure
I need to go to I need to go to a council meeting there. That'd be great. You're
in England. That would be. They wouldn't know what to do over here. They would be absolutely shocked. There'd be like a firework going off in their face. Cheers, guys. I hope you enjoyed that, and please leave comments below. And I appreciate your time, Alex. We'll speak soon. Take care. Goodbye.
See ya.
Your call is important to us.
Hello and welcome to tonight's show.
You've arrived at your destination. Connecting.